Hi everyone, my name is Federico and in this video I'm going to show you how you can annotate figure directly inside LaTeX. I'm going to show you how you can add text, how you can add arrows, how you can add text with arrows, and how you can draw different type of shapes. I'm also going to introduce you to the Tikz package, which is super powerful and you can draw basically any shape or anything that you want. So in order to annotate figures, in this video we are going to use two different packages. One package is called callouts and is the one that you can see, and the outcome is the one that you can see here at the top. And the second package that we are going to use is Tikz, which is more powerful but a little bit more complex. So I'm going to show you both options, and I've got inspiration about this video from this post here. So I'm going to put a link in the description to this post as well on Stack Exchange, so if you want to find out more you can also read the post. So let's start with the callouts package. The callouts package is a very nice package because it's very simple to use, it has limited functionalities but it's quite powerful. So in order to use the callouts package, we just have to import it at the beginning of the document. So as you can see here on the left, we have a document class article and we are importing the callouts package. Let me zoom in a bit, so probably you can see a little bit better the imports. And as you can see here in my code, you can specify in the options the text color, the background color, and the color of the arrow. So let's, for example, change the color of the arrow to blue. And let's change the text to gray. So let's compile the document again. And you will see that now the arrows are all blue, the text is gray, and the background behind the text is white. In order to use the callouts package, we have to wrap the figure with the begin annotate. So let me show you how we can do that. So as usual, of course, to start a LaTeX document, we need to define the document class and we have to say begin document. And of course, at the end we have end document, but this is not important in this video because I don't want to show you how to create a LaTeX document. I just want to show you how you can annotate a figure. So we start with declaring the figure environment. So we say begin figure, and then of course we have the end closing tag. And then we use centering because we want to have the figure center in the page. Don't worry too much about the code because I'm going to put all this code down in the video description. So you can just copy and paste it and you don't have to rewrite the code. So just follow along with me, try to understand how you can use the package, but don't worry too much about the code. So as I previously mentioned, if we want to annotate a figure, we just have to say begin annotate. And inside a curly braces, after begin annotate, we just have to specify the figure that we want to annotate. And how we specify the figure is with include graphic. With include graphic, we can also resize the picture, okay, as normal. So we can specify the width of the figure here as a function of the text width of our document. It is very important that this number here, which resizes the figure, also matches this number here, which is after the include figure, so after the curly braces. Here we have the same number that has to match this one here, because this is going to scale the geometry we are going to use for adding annotation. A bonus tip that I want to show you is this help grid. So this package callouts allow us to add an help grid on top of the figure. This is extremely useful. And let me show you. Let me recompile the document. I'm recompiling the document with Ctrl Enter. And as you can see now, we have a grid on top of the figure. This is extremely helpful because we can understand exactly the coordinates of each part of the image. So this is going to be much easier for us to define where we want to place text or where we want to place an arrow, or where we want to place a rectangle. Of course, you can change the color of the help grid, because right now the figure is green, mostly green, so it's nice to have an help grid which is black, but of course I can change that to white if the figure would have been black, like the figure that I have at the bottom, which is an image of the universe. So you can define the color of the help grid by just putting in the square braces the color that you want. So let's revert it back to black. We can add three types of things with the callouts package. So there are three different types of annotation. We can add a note, which is just text. It doesn't have an arrow, it just has text. So the first two numbers inside the curly braces are the location or the coordinates of the note where we want to place it. And this note is going to be center. So for instance, let's move this note here, up here at the top. So first we define actually the X. So we want to move it 4 on the side here, so we can see here. And we want to move it 3 up. So we say 4 and 3. And then we change from center, because it's no longer in the center, we can say note. So this is going to move our note here at the top. Then we have a callout. A callout has text and an arrow. So this is very nice because we can specify the location of the text first, as we did before in the note. So as you can see, I put the note at 3, so 3 on the X and then 1.5 on the Y. Then I'm specifying the text that I want inside that note, and I can also specify where the arrow has to end. So I want to highlight this flower here. So the flower is on 2, 1. So I can specify where the arrow is going to end. Of course, I could have pointed to the butterfly. So let me change that. So let me point to the butterfly, which in this case the butterfly is in minus 1.5 and 2.5. So minus 1.5 and 2.5. And let me change the text. Perfect. Now I'm pointing to the butterfly. As you can see, we don't have a very detailed grid. So unfortunately, you will have probably to use a bit of trial and error. So in this case, probably I should have said minus 1.25. So let's recompile again. And now the arrow is going to end a little bit before, so it's a bit better. Okay? And finally, we can also specify just an arrow. Okay? As you can see here at the bottom. And we can change the coordinate of the arrow. So we have first, we specify the starting point of the arrow, so minus 3, minus 2.5, and then we want that this arrow ends in minus 4.5 and minus 3. Of course, we can change that. Callouts is also quite handy because we can also add Tikz shapes to the figure. Because with the callouts package, for instance, we cannot add and draw a rectangle. But using the callouts package, we can also draw Tikz shapes. And this is what I'm doing here. I'm just showing one example. I'm just drawing a rectangle, and I'm drawing more shape down in the second example. But I just want to show you that that is possible. So here you specify draw. I'm not going to go too much into detail of the Tikz package because it's a quite complex package. Maybe I'm going to release another video on that, but I just want to show you how you can add a basic shape on top of the figure. So here we are specifying that the border is very thick, the border is red. We are specifying the top left corner first of this figure, so is minus 3.5 and 3.5 here. And then we want that the other corner of the rectangle is minus 1 and 0.5 here. If we want to include all the butterfly, maybe we could have specified instead of minus 1, we would have said minus 0.5. So we are going to include also the antenna inside the rectangle. So the help grid is extremely useful because it takes a bit of guesswork, but maybe you are going to have to just guess it once or twice, and then you're going to be done. Okay? Once you are done, you just have to comment out the help grid. You can recompile the figure again, and then you are done. So now you have all your annotation. Of course, you could have had all this annotation as well in Inkscape. You could have done that for sure. But this is quite handy because you can do it inside LaTeX. You can easily change the annotation, and it scales down very well. So let me actually show you how to scale the figure down. So we want that the figure is 0.5 the text width. As I previously explained, it's very important that you also match this number here with this number here. So let me scale down the figure. And now you can see that the figure has scaled down, but the text is still in the same font size as it was before. So it's very readable. If you would have done this with another software, like Illustrator or Inkscape, then you would have had to generate the figure again because the font size will also have shrink and probably was no longer readable. So this comes very handy when you are annotating figures. So this was the callouts package, and of course, since Annotate is inside the figure, you can also add a caption and you can also add a label. So this was all about the callouts package, and now I'm going to show you how you can add annotation with the Tikz package. So in order to add annotation with the Tikz package, we of course have to import the Tikz package, and we have to do something very similar to what we have done before. So again, we're going to create the begin figure, and here at the end I have end figure. I'm also centering the figure as before, and I'm adding a caption and a label. So same as before. But now the command is going to change a little bit, because here we are starting with the begin Tikz picture. Okay? The first thing that we are adding inside this Tikz picture is a node. And what is this node? This node is going to include our image. So I'm defining a node. In the option, I'm saying that the anchor of the node is at the bottom left corner. So we are saying anchor it southwest. Inner, and the separation is equal to 0. We are adding an image at 0.0. Okay? And as we did before, we included a graphic with a width of 0.9 text width, and we are specifying the image. Of course, as I previously mentioned, you can copy my code, and here you will have just to change the name of the image to match your image. I'm using Overleaf, so here are all my images that I've uploaded. Of course, you can compile this document locally, and this is also going to work. Then, after we have created this node, which has added our image, we can start with begin scope. And inside here, begin scope and end scope, we are going to write all the command to draw this annotation. So we are going to add some text, we're going to add a rectangle, a circle, and a triangle. Okay? I wanted to show the circle because it is important to note one thing, and I'm going to explain it exactly what I'm doing here when I'm adding the circle. So we are adding begin scope, and we are defining the coordinate based on the figure. Okay, so we are redefining the coordinates of this figure based on the figure image size. Okay, this is going to be very handy because we are defining as 0, 0, this point here on the bottom left, and this point here on the bottom right is going to be 1. Let me actually show you, because as I did before, I have some code that is going to draw a grid line on top of the image, and this is going to be extremely handy. So before, if you remember, we had integers. Okay, so 0, 0 was in the center. Now 0, 0 is going to be on the bottom left, and the top right is going to be 1, 1. So the first thing that we are going to draw is a rectangle, and we have already seen before how to draw a rectangle. So we are specifying that is red, is ultra thick, it has rounded corners, and we are specifying what? We are specifying this time the bottom left point, rectangle, and the top right point. So 0.7 and 0.5. And this is going to generate this rectangle. Let me change the color to blue just to show you that this is the rectangle that we are talking about. Perfect. So we draw the rectangle. Then I'm also drawing here a circle. Okay? So the circle is important to keep in mind that usually you would specify the radius of the circle in in relative units. Okay? But unfortunately that's not going to work, because if you specify relative units, so let me show you actually. So if you specify the radius in 0.1, so we want to have it a radius of 0.1, so that should be technically a little bit more handy. We can see that we are drawing an ellipse. Why we are drawing an ellipse? Because our image here is not a square. So 0.1 as a radius on the x direction is wider than on the y direction. So unfortunately, we are drawing an ellipse. So a workaround, since we have changed the coordinates, so the x and y here, we have to specify the radius in centimeters or inches. Okay? We of course can specify the filling of the radius, the border color, and we can also specify the opacity here. Again, I'm not going to go too much into detail how to draw shapes, but I want to show you that is possible. And we have to specify the center of the circle, and of course that we want to draw a circle. We can also draw a triangle, and I'm wanting to show you the triangle because for the triangle we have to specify 3 points. Okay, so here we're specifying the bottom left, the bottom right, the top point, and then we want to say cycle, so it just goes back to the original point. So here we can draw a triangle. Of course we can change the coordinates. So if I want to show the triangle that the topmost point is here, we can say 0.7 and 0.95. So let me change that, and I just want to show you the example. So of course now the figure of the triangle has changed. We can also add some text as similar to what we did before. We just have to specify the color, the filling of the text, draw, and we have to specify the text that we want to put inside and the argument, so in our case is some text. And finally, what I think is extremely useful is to draw the coordinates. Okay, so right now I'm drawing coordinate every 0.05. So I have a finer mesh than what compared with what I had before. Of course I can change this, and I can say to, instead of 0.05 the step of the mesh, I can have it more coarse mesh. So let me show you that. So we have one line only for 0.1 increment, so we have a more coarse mesh. But if you also want to have a finer mesh, that's not a problem at all. You can just have to change the X step and Y step. And of course we are starting the mesh from 0, 0 to 1, 1. So let me compile the document again. And now we're going to have a very fine mesh. So in a way, it's going to be probably a little bit easier to place exactly the figure where we want. At the same time, it becomes a little bit more complex because now it's difficult to tell exactly where is the line of 0.1, but I guess you can count them. Or of course, you can just play a bit with it, and perhaps you could just specify 0.25. Perhaps that's probably a better trade-off. Okay. So now we have finer mesh, but we can easily tell that this is the 0.1 line, this is the 0.2. So if you want to put an annotation accurately, it's going to be much easier. For instance, if you want to just highlight this star here in the galaxy. Then we are adding with this for each, the annotation here at the bottom, this text here at the bottom, and this text here on the y-axis, just to show us the line. Of course, you can again here have it finer or more coarse, as up to you. Once you are done putting all the object, of course you can just comment it out. In overleaf is just Ctrl// and you can recompile the figure. So the grid line is all gone, but that was very useful to just place the element inside the figure. I really hope you find this video useful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comment section below. If you find the video useful, please consider liking the video, subscribing to my channel, and press on the bell icon so you're going to receive notification when I'm going to release a new video. If you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee. Please find more information in the video description below. And thank you very much for listening, and see you next time.